We're back with another episode of the Huskers Radio Network podcast and our newcomer series, introducing you to the newcomers of Nebraska Volleyball. And in the hot seat today, we have Laney Choboy, the freshman defensive specialist in Libero out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Well, how's the summer going for you?
It's been good. We just got back from Brazil, and that was a really long trip. That was kind of when we would get to go home, so we're just back here working out and enjoying it. The UV's been really high, so my team's been eating that up. But yeah,
I love that. How was Brazil? Had you ever been?
I had never been. The only time I've been out of the country was in Mexico, but it was an experience for sure. I think we got tested in a lot of ways, like mentally and physically, but it was really cool seeing a different style of volleyball. Like, I've been playing for USA for a while, so I've seen like different countries and stuff playing, but it was really cool to play a super high level volleyball and see our team compete against somebody that's not ourselves. So that was really cool. And yeah, we practiced a lot, we played a lot, but
how much does it bring a team together too, chemistry wise, and just even closer?
Yes, I think that because we were together so much, like, you don't have an escape from your team. You're sleeping with your team, you're eating with your team, like, everything is with your team. So I think that we learned a lot about each other, that we hang out a lot here, but it's just different when you have no escape. We learned a lot about each other on and off the court, like what each other needs on the court. Like, when they're down, what do you need to say to them, like stuff like that. And then off the court, like, personalities were just shining, and we got to know each other on a way deeper level.
Well, your recruiting story is a little bit different than a lot of volleyball players. A lot of them commit really early. You had committed and then had decommitted from Minnesota, and then what was back in November changed to Nebraska. Take us through all of that.
Yes, so I committed about 10 days after the rule changed my sophomore year. I'd been talking to Minnesota in the 8th grade, and I kind of fell in love, and I just had a sense that that's where I needed to be. And then I went on my visit, I want to say in October, maybe, and I didn't take my official before I committed, so I took it late. And then he called me. He was like, I'm leaving. I was like, no. So I ended up opening it back up just because there was too many uncertainties, like who was going to be the coach. I wasn't going to find out till December, but I was leaving in January. So there was just too much going on, and I decided to open it back up, and I only opened it up to 2 schools. So I went on my first visit and then came back for 10 hours and then went to come to Nebraska. And then I committed 3 days later.
That had to be kind of nerve-wracking. I mean, here is a school that you think you're going to play for a long time, and then having to go through that decision.
Yeah, it was pretty stressful. It was definitely not easy, but I think both of my parents being coaches, they were able to help me through that, and they knew how to go about it, so I just kind of leaned on them and trusted that they knew what they were talking about, and we got through it in a timely manner, but also very efficiently.
Well, you've been a favorite. John Baylor, the voice of Nebraska volleyball, just raved about you. Your teammates love you. You have this infectious personality, and you had said somewhere where you said that maybe some people think you're mean on the court, but you're completely different off the court. That you have 2 basically different personalities.
Yeah. I think that when people see me on the court, my energy and competitiveness, when we get into an intense game, I'm pretty intense, but it's can come off as mean to people that don't know me. This one girl came up to me at a club tournament that knew Harper, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm terrified of you." And I was like, "Why?" I'm nice, I promise. But just on the court, I refuse to just let balls drop, and I'm not playing with a huge smile. And most of the time, if it's an intense match, you're gonna see a straight face, and I'm just all go get it.
And then completely opposite off the
court, I just have so much energy. You'll probably see, if I'm ever on the bench and stuff, I'll probably be known for dancing and being the light. And on the court, if it's a laxed game, then we'll all be Hala Smile. But other than that, which I don't expect there to be many of those, it'll be pretty intense.
Where does that competitive fire come from?
Oh my gosh, I've had it since I was young, and I would say I played 4 years up. I was 7 playing on 11s, and I did that for 3 years, and then I was only playing 3 years up, and then slowly just played my own age. And I would say when I was 7, I was not the best teammate because my competitive got the best of me. And I couldn't understand why I was 7, and I was just playing on this team, and I just didn't understand much. So I think that I learned how to be a good teammate but also still be competitive, and my whole family's competitive. We'll play pickleball on the driveway, and it's a knockdown, drag out all the time. so competitive.
You know, the football coaches play pickleball out here in the concourse.
They're gonna have to hit me up.
I feel like you need to join.
I'm gonna need to join.
Well, I'm gonna let Coach Rule know that if they ever need someone, I feel like you could probably come and dominate.
Yeah, let him know. My dad was a tennis coach, so.
Yeah, so your mom played volleyball, your brother played baseball. It's just like sports is just kind of a part of your family, right?
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah, for sure. My dad coached for like 30 years. He was coaching at Florida, Brown, NC State. My mom was coaching. She coached at, oh gosh, I can't even remember. That's where they met, but I can't even remember. She only coached for about 2 years because just having two coaching parents, got really difficult. So my mom was like, I'll step out of it. You follow your passion. And they did that and they made it work. But yeah, sports have been in my family forever.
So why volleyball for you?
I played a lot of sports growing up. I ran track. I played soccer for a long time. I did a lot of things. And I would just say that I fell in love with volleyball very young. I started very young. And I would say I would get mad when I had to go to soccer practice, but when I had to go to volleyball practice, I was so hyped in the car and I was just ready to go. And I just had a passion for it from a very young age. And I just felt like I could see it differently. Like I would go to my sister's club tournaments because she also played. And my mom, I was 5 years old, and me and my mom were sitting on the bench, and I'd be like, Mom, like her footwork is backwards, and I'm 5.
Wow.
My mom was like, how do you know this? Like, how do you see that? So I think from a young age, I just had a vision for the game, and I just continued to fall in love with it.
So you're 5'3". Probably a lot of people doubted that you could play volleyball at this kind of level. Did you hear that a lot?
Yeah, I even looked at like averages, and I think at one point, like the Big Ten average libero was like 5'9", and I was like, okay. But I think growing up, it never stopped me. It never really crossed my mind. I was never like, oh, I can't go this far because I'm short. I think that there's a lot of factors to it. It's not necessarily how tall you are. I mean, that can help with range, but as long as you see the game and you move well, then it won't really stop you.
How important is that? Because I mean, it can be this kind of misconception, or there's this notion that you have to be a certain height to play a certain sport. But how important is that for you to be an example to young little girls that, hey, you can do whatever you want to be?
Yeah, I actually get a lot of DMs from little girls saying like, hey, like I'm a shorter libero, like how I just like look up to you, how do you do it? And I just kind of tell them that it's not about how tall you are, like it's about how motivated you are, that no ball is gonna hit the floor. Like you can have as much range. If you feel like you're tall, then you're gonna play tall. And I think that like range is something that's important because you can cover so much court, especially as a libero. But I just think like learn to see the game and just have that ultimate motivation that this ball is coming up, whether I'm tall or not. And I think that that also comes into competitiveness. Like I'm not gonna let a ball hit the ground. So it's like, it doesn't really play a factor, I don't believe.
I love that. So again, 5'3", and you just said you play as tall as you feel, and you played hitter in high school. And you led your team in kills and digs.
I did.
How did you make that work?
So like I said, when I was young, I just had a vision for it. So I'm a very visual learner. I learn very visually. And I watch people's technique all the time. And I just think that I saw so many people hitting, and I would go hit in practice, and me and my mom, I would just go hit for fun sometimes. But I never really hit until my last year in club. I had to hit for one club tournament, and that was crazy. Loved it. Super sore the last day, though. That wasn't bad. But I think when I had to hit senior year, I told her, I was like, put me wherever you want me to win. And I was like, I'd love to hit. And I did. And I asked for the set pretty much every time. I was like, please just give me the ball. And it happened, yeah.
So did you get to do that a little bit in beach? Because Lexi Rodriguez is telling us that hey, it allows kind of the shorter people to get to hit a little bit in beach.
Yeah, my partner was Lindsay, loved that. But we would option a lot, which basically means that she hits the second ball. But I think in beach it's a lot harder to jump, so it's a lot more shots. And we call it a hammer, so I probably hammered maybe 2 times all of beach season. It's way different than indoor where I can go up and hit the ball, but it was a lot of shots, and we got to experience that a little bit, which was fun. I would rather be able to go up and smash the ball, but that doesn't get to happen, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome. What I read somewhere, one of your coaches, I'm not sure which coach, but talked about how good you are at receiving, and we hear Coach Cook talk about that. You have to be able to pass, receive, all of the above, but how important has that become to what you do on a volleyball court?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a skill that I'm still working on a lot. I think I've always been more of a defensive libero just because of like my speed and just stuff like that. But I'm working through a lot of things. I think that I started with one technique and I did that for about 4 years, and then at USA I realized, okay, I can't do this. It was center line, and at USA they're all about angles, so I had to completely go back to square one, and that was super difficult, but I ended up doing it. And then coming back here, it's a different technique. So serve receive is something that I've always been working through, and it's something that I'm going to continue to work through, and I think it's definitely the thing that I need to get better at, but it's definitely super, super important because you have to take most of the court so your hitters can go do their job. And in club, you know, I took every ball and I had that confidence, but then you come here, the serves are harder. Like, you have people, like Coach Cook is chirping in your ear, and I joke about it with him because I'm like, hey, I can pass fine when you're not there. When you are there, like, what's going on? So I'm like, I need you to come chirp in my ear and tell me to pass the ball. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm still working through and changing technique as we speak. So I'm excited for the end result. I can already tell a difference.
What's it been like kind of getting to know and working a little bit with Lexi? And obviously she's been a huge part of this team for a couple of years now.
Yeah, so I signed up for that, obviously.
Yeah.
I chose to come here, but I think that was also a big reason why I came here, because I just think that she was going to sharpen me, and iron sharpens iron, and I might not necessarily be iron yet, but she is. So it's like I knew she was going to push me and make me the best that I can be, and it's honestly been amazing. Like, we're really close, and you can probably tell that on the court, and we don't necessarily get to pass next to each other a lot in practice because we're on opposite sides, but she's just already made me a better player, and I've learned a lot from her, and I can look up to her and stuff, and I think that we can just end up making each other better, and I think that at the end of the day, like, our defense will be unstoppable.
What a great perspective. I love that. What are some of the things that you feel like you need to do to be able to make an impact, however that might be for this team this season?
Yeah, I think definitely, as I said earlier, continuing to pass the ball, which was one of my focuses this summer. And that's what Coach Cook told me after Brazil, and I was like, okay, bet. Like, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna get in there and pass. And then I think just Coach Cook has said in one of the interviews that I can win points with my personality, whether I touch the ball or not. And I think that's a big thing that I can bring to the team, and being consistent with what I give to the team, not necessarily technical-wise or play-wise, but I think just my energy on the court and the way that I can, like, lead people will be a big factor, I think, this year.
Well, I've been asking everybody, because I've got to get everybody's perspective that comes through here. You see the news you find out that you're going to be playing a game inside the football stadium, and then as soon as the tickets go on sale, it's 2 days and it's sold out.
Yeah.
What was that like to kind of experience as a part and thinking about what that's going to be like?
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. I did not expect it, and I definitely didn't expect tickets to become open again. And I've obviously never played in Devaney, but I went to a game. I went to the Maryland game last year on my official. And it's just an insane atmosphere. Like, I didn't really touch on, like, why I chose Nebraska, but the just fan base is unreal. And I just think that you can tell in every situation that's happened so far, you can tell how big our fans are. And that was just incredible. And I think that we are going to have a lot of factors during that game, so it might not necessarily be the prettiest game, but we're going to, with the wind and stuff, and outside is crazy, but we're going to work through that, and I think our fans are just incredible.
Well, Laney Choboy, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for stopping by. I know you're going to be a fan favorite here, just with your personality and the energy that you bring, and so looking forward to seeing what you guys do this upcoming season.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Again, Laney Choboy with Nebraska Volleyball out of Raleigh, North Carolina, freshman defensive specialist and libero. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Huskers Radio Network podcast. Make sure you subscribe and like wherever you listen to never miss an episode. Thanks so much for listening.